back by a Kenosha, Wisconsin police officer in front of his 3 young children. The Milwaukee Bucks boycotted their Game 5 playoff matchup against the Orlando Magic on Wednesday. The NBA later announcing the remaining games scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday would be postponed and rescheduled at a later date. Now, play could resume as early as this weekend, but meanwhile, Donald Trump had this to say about the NBA yesterday. They've become like a political organization, and that's not a good thing. I don't think that's a good thing for sports or for the country. Stephen A., feel free to respond to Trump's comments, but I also want to ask you how effective you believe that player protests are going to be in the call for social justice.
I think it's going to be effective because I think they have the help of the NBA, and the NBA led by a great commissioner and a slew of owners that have cash, that have cachet, that have impact, are more than willing to help them. So it truly is a partnership in certain respects. In terms of what the president has had to say, he's going to have his opinion. People are going to disagree with him, but I would strongly, strongly advise everybody to pay attention to what he said. He said it's like a political organization. That's somewhat of a code, you know, to his base and to potential swing voters or independents out there who are undecided for some reason. This is what is going on. So when you hear them speak, really, really listen to what they have to say. Assume it's coming for the left. Assume it's their ideology, et cetera, because somehow, some way, the president thinks that that is going to help him. I think that's what I peeled from it. As it pertains to LeBron James specifically, Max Kellerman, I wanted you to hear this. I was going to bring this up earlier. It's necessary to bring up now. We all know that LeBron James has been absolutely sensational with his I Promise school, his foundation, the kind of charitable and philanthropic things that he's done is absolutely sensational. There is no question about that. He has been a role model. He has been a sensational individual. He's the greatest player in the world as far as I'm concerned. And to call him a leader at this particular moment in time, that would not apply. When you talk to people inside the bubble, let me tell you what I heard, Max Kellerman. I heard, first of all, he was speaking out of pocket and was talking to the players in a fashion that really turned some of these young cats off. This is a new day. It's a new generation. And as we have said, in previous shows, when cats were out in the street protesting and things of that nature, just talking about the younger generation, they're not having it anymore. Well, guess what? The younger generation of players were not having what they were hearing from LeBron James because the fashion in which he spoke to them. So when he stormed out of there, I was told it was in part because of that. And he sort of came off like, I got mine, I don't need this, and walked out. Now, we later learned that the Lakers and the Clippers were the 2 teams that did not want to participate while the other 28 teams were willing to go forward. So fast forward from Wednesday, Max, to Thursday, meaning yesterday, they have a meeting. It's at least 2 players from each team that's in the playoffs. All right. In the case of the Lakers, I was told there were 4 guys. OK, there was an owner on the call from each team that was there, each team that's in the playoffs. An owner, of course, Michael Jordan was on the call, even though his team wasn't there because he's the chairman of the Labor Relations Committee. And Adam Silver led the call. And, of course, Michelle Roberts did most of the talking from what I was told. Well, LeBron James, or when everybody thought the meeting was over, LeBron James grabs the mic. And from what I'm told, talks for about 15 minutes. And he's talking about 15 minutes in a fashion that turned everybody off because they had already agreed to what they were going to do moving forward. And he was talking about, quote, the guys beneath me. I have to look out for the guys beneath me, to the point where you had people saying, what the hell you mean beneath you? Now, they didn't say that to him, but they certainly said it to people like myself, Woj, and others who are covering that meeting. He came across as if he was the king with some crown and what have you. And it was a real turnoff. Why is this relevant, ladies and gentlemen? It's relevant because you're trying to galvanize folks with your more than a vote movement. This is the same LeBron James that has that excellent show, executive produced by himself and my man Maverick Carter on The Shop on HBO. Remember, you're talking during that show, you want to be an owner. Well, you already alienated owners when you departed from Cleveland to go to South Beach the first time. You obviously were on the verge of alienating owners this time around. And this is a good old boys club. They don't have to let you in as an owner, which is what he ultimately wants. There's a guy by the name, I think his name is Larry Ellison, if I remember correctly, Max. For he's associated. He owns the Oracle, some software company. He's worth billions.
Yeah,
this guy
Larry
has
Ellison.
been trying to become an NBA owner for years. They won't let him in. So for LeBron to have these aspirations, but really turning people off the way that he has, some of the players, executives, owners, LeBron James needs to be careful. He usually sees the forest from the trees, Max. Over the last 2 days, that was not the case. He turned a lot of people off by how he tried to come across as if he were big time. He needs to be careful about that, from what I've been told by numerous people that were present.
And what was he talking about in those 15 minutes?
Reporting.
Just that they shouldn't play the rest of the season? What was the crux
No,
of his
he was
argument?
just giving his opinion about his argument, Max and Charlie, was that he was trying to say to the owners, we need y'all's support. Are y'all going to do this for us? Are y'all going to do that for us? We need this. And everybody was like, we've already agreed. We're willing to do whatever you need us to do to help you. What are you talking about? And by the way, if you're going to speak and you call yourself a leader, why are you the last one to speak instead of the first one to speak? This is the kind of attitude. I don't know if they told him that directly, but I know several people have communicated to me what transpired in that meeting. Even folks that weren't in the meeting have heard about the reading. A lot of people are talking about it in Orlando because of how he came across. He did not look good.
First of all, as I said, I think that's fascinating reporting. I want to get to it in a second. We started off by quoting Trump's comment that the NBA is like a political organization right now. I can see why he would say that, or why I think that's a reasonable statement to make. I disagree with his conclusion. He thinks that's a bad thing for sports and a bad thing for the country. Well, I disagree with that conclusion, unsurprisingly. I think it's a bad thing for the status quo. I think part of, as I keep saying, revanchist, make something again, right? Like make something the way it used to be. We want it before civil rights. We want it before, way back in the old days when it was great for us. Who's the us? It wasn't great for everybody. When he says bad for sports and bad for the country, it's bad for the status quo, and the status quo has not been good for everyone. Now to LeBron James. Stephen A., that's fascinating reporting. I think I always cut LeBron some slack here, and it's because he has been anointed. He has been the chosen one since he was a teenager. He is a cross between Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. He's going to be the greatest player of all time. And all these expectations on him. Cameras on him. At ESPN, we're televising, I believe the McDonald's game, right? His last game in high school. I was there in D.C. doing Around the Horn at the time. He came in with more expectations than anyone ever. Even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and all his expectations. But he came in having been college educated. LeBron came in straight out of high school and fulfilled all the expectations and exceeded them. I don't think he's the greatest of all time. That's Jordan. But who could have expected anyone to be this great for this long? It's absurd. And then also to take the lead on so many fronts in business, on social issues, and of course, given his play, given his unselfish style of play, given the way he's taken people with him and empowered them from his childhood, if they would pull their own weight, in business, teammates, all these things. What's that?
I said no, Max, because you're alluding to his competence or what have you, and they're not questioning that. They know what they're saying is that he was grandstanding and really was displaying
I understand. I'm
his
addressing
arrogance,
that.
Like folks were beneath him. That's what he was saying. That's what they were saying.
I'm addressing that. I cut him slack because given everything I just said, anyone in those circumstances might get a bit full of themselves at times. at times and feel entitled to maybe have the last word or say what they want to say or buck the trend or be kind or whine at people. Like, I cut him some slack that way. If the feeling was LeBron is feeling himself a little too much right now or out of touch with others,